In this TED Talk, I will be discussing depression and how to treat it. What is depression? Depression is a brain disorder characterized by persistently depressed mood or loss of interest in activities, causing significant impairment in daily life. There are different types of depression, including major depression, chronic depression, bipolar depression, seasonal depression, psychotic depression, postpartum depression, and substance-induced mood disorder depression. What are signs of depression? Some common signs of depression include difficulty concentrating, remembering details, and making decisions, fatigue and decreased energy, feelings of guilt, worthlessness, and/or helplessness, feelings of hopelessness and pessimism, insomnia, early morning wakefulness, or exercise sleeping, irritability, restlessness, loss of interest in activities or hobbies once pleasurable, including sex, loss of pleasure in life, overeating or appetite loss, persistent aches or pains, headaches, cramps, or digestive problems that do not ease even with treatment, persistent sad, anxious, or empty feelings, thoughts of suicide or suicide attempts. Over a long course of time, everyone can feel signs of depression, but in order for it to be chronic, it must be over a longer period of time. How to help someone go through depression. First steps are usually taken by visiting the primary healthcare provider. They will then evaluate your symptoms and choose the future course of action. If you witness someone to display these symptoms, then help them to seek medical attention. Or you could have a conversation with them about the issue at hand. If you feel that the person is unresponsive to what you are advising them, then it would be a good idea to seek medical attention as the issue escalates. About 20% of teens face depression before reaching adulthood. Suicide is the third leading cause of death for people ages 15 to 24. What is a treatment process? There are different types of depression that exist. In terms of treatment, depression would have to be present most of the day, either daily or nearly daily, for at least 2 weeks. Depending on the type of depression that you have, antidepressants are usually prescribed. These drugs are supposed to raise your mood and ease the sadness and hopelessness that you feel. Depending on each patient, doctors usually find a good balance between what is working for the patient and has the least amount of side effects. The way that antidepressants work is by three main chemicals called norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. Research shows that when brains are depressed, these circuits do not work properly. But then, when the use of antidepressants, it works to help these processes. Antidepressants usually take between 4 and 6 weeks to begin to work. Some thought that it would take much sooner, while others said it took up to 8 weeks to begin to kick in when certain patients under antidepressants were interviewed. One patient described her experience saying that she felt that after a few weeks she began to feel less anxious and on edge, but she did feel some side effects in the beginning. Common side effects include nausea, weight gain or increased appetite, loss of sexual desire, fatigue and drowsiness, insomnia, dry mouth, blurred vision, constipation. Common side effects of depression in teenagers. Feeling worthless is a symptom caused by depression in many teenagers. Depression may also cause a teen to eat more as a coping strategy. Another coping strategy for teens is for them to spend all their time on the internet. Depression can cause an attempt in suicide, which is an emergency situation where the teen should be taken to the emergency room or have scheduled time with a therapist. Depression can be caused by teens' thought of being worthless and inadequacy over their grades. Stress can come from the environment that a teen is in and can be induced by conflicts with friends and family. Remember, If you witness someone that you are close to that shows any of these symptoms, it is important to take action by either consulting a medical doctor or speaking to the person directly. If you can get through to the person, it is important that you continue to monitor their behaviors to see if there are any signs of suicide attempts. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoyed my presentation. Please now enjoy this short video that I believe is a proper explanation of what depression is and its effect on the brain. Thank you for watching.
With over 350 million people affected by depression worldwide, it's no doubt an incredibly real and serious issue. But what exactly is going on inside of a depressed person? Is there a biological basis for these intense feelings of sadness? In the past, depression was often described as simply a chemical imbalance in the brain. Specifically, scientists believed that a lack of the neurotransmitter serotonin was to blame, which is often referred to as the feel-good chemical. However, the only real evidence for this was that when some depressed people were prescribed drugs which increased serotonin levels, it helped alleviate their symptoms. But while chemicals most certainly are involved, this view doesn't really capture just how complex depression is. In recent years, scientists began to notice that the brain cell growth and connections may actually play a larger role. When we look at the brain of a depressed person, studies show that the hippocampus tends to be much smaller than average. Other areas of the brain are also physically affected, but this region in particular controls memory and emotion. And the longer a person has been depressed, the smaller the hippocampus becomes. The cells and networks literally deteriorate. It turns out that stress may actually be a main trigger in the decrease of new neurons in this area of the brain. In fact, studies have shown that when this region of the brain is regenerated and new neurons are stimulated, mood improves. Interestingly, many modern drugs, including those which affect serotonin levels, have an indirect effect on the growth of brain cells. This is likely why serotonin-based drugs seem to help some patients, but not for the reasons we once thought. Instead, they promote the release of other chemicals which ultimately stimulate neurogenesis, or the growth of new neurons. Knowing this, some scientists now believe focus should be on drugs which directly affect neurogenesis. But while your neurons and chemicals may be the direct influencers, many genetic factors have been discovered as well. One particular study found that a variation in the serotonin transporter gene leaves individuals more vulnerable to depression. Every individual has 2 copies of the gene, one from each parent, and this gene can either be short or long. After tracking 800 young adults over 5 years, the study revealed that 33% of individuals with one short version became depressed after stressful life events, and people with 2 short genes fared even worse. On the other hand, those with 2 long genes were much less likely to become depressed with similar life stress. Many other genes have been identified which increase the likelihood of depression too, and it makes sense when you consider that depression and bipolar disorder both run in families. Studies of identical twins show that if one has bipolar disorder, the other has a 60 to 80% chance of developing it too. So while the true cause or causes of depression have yet to be pinned down precisely, and trust us, there's a huge list of other variables that studies suggest may come into play, it's important to remember that depression is a disease with a biological basis, along with psychological and social implications. It's not simply a weakness that somebody should get over, or even something that we have a say in. And just like heart disease or cancer, shedding light onto the subject is of the utmost importance in order to bring funding and proper research. But is depression only a human phenomenon? We look into the question, do dogs get depressed, in our latest ASAP Thought video, and discover the many studies done to understand depression among other species, including your pets at home. You can click the link in the description for that video. You can also check out the book Animal Madness by Laurel Braitman, which touches on the subject. In fact, you can get it for free from our friends at Audible by going to audible.com/ASAP. Audible is the leading provider of audiobooks with over 150,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. You can download this audiobook or another of your choice for free at audible.com/ASAP. And with a subscription, you get 1 free book a month. Special thanks to Audible for making these videos possible. If you think you're suffering from depression, we've included some resources and more information in the description. And subscribe for more weekly science videos.